Hey, greetings there, everyone. It's GleeCon back at you again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we continued with our World of Warcraft Classic playthrough. This time, we started as an orc based off Sourfang, a warrior who began in the Valley of Trials. And they're a little bit long right now, so we'll have to see if we just keep plugging out these long plays or if there's some I don't know if there's another way that we approach it later. We'll have to just check it out and see. We've also been doing the Dungeons and Dragons. The Dungeons and Dragons World of Warcraft classic kind of take on things. We looked at Sylith this last time, so stay a while and listen as we continue with Lands of Mystery, the Dungeons and Dragons classic World of Warcraft book written by Bran Bronzebeard, and discussing his exploration of Kalimdor and beyond. And we're going to do Tanaris today. Okay, begins. Population is 3,000, so fairly small. Mostly, the most prevalent race is Goblin, but there are a good amount of humans there. I think they're actually in the form of like pirates and Sand Fury trolls, some Dune Maul ogres, and gnomes. This is a neutral zone, and most importantly, the Caverns of Time are here. After leaving the Mirage Raceway in Thousand Needles, I headed south toward Tanaris. After enduring a couple of salt wind storms and dodging basilisks all the way, I finally came to the pass through the hills to Tanaris where Gadget Stand awaited. I climbed the hills, looking forward to getting out of the desert at last, and finally I crested the ridge to look down upon another desert. Yep, that's right, Tanaris is a desert too. All shifting sands and rocky wasteland, as if somebody huge just poured the shimmering flat sands on top of the solid floor of Thousand Needles. The only thing that raised my spirits was that Gadget Stand was in sight. And what a sight it was. A metal-walled town with rusted buildings, giant moving wheels, and smoke rising from chimneys all about. I could hear the hammering and grinding from at least a mile away where I stood gazing out at Tanaris. Wearily, I made my way into town and found myself and people of all races. Now, I've been to Booty Bay, and you've heard me talk about the way you can run into all sorts of people there. Gadget Stand was much the same thing. I saw elves, humans, dwarves, goblins, gnomes, trolls, and even an ogre in the streets, all moving about on whatever business brought them to this busy place. I soon came to learn that they arrived via Wyvern or Griffin. There are both sorts of masters here, keeping their camps outside the city walls opposite each other. I went to the bar, and as you might imagine, it was a rollicking place. I heard stories there that you wouldn't believe, and I told some of mine as well. The information I got that night probably saved my life several times in the upcoming days. For example, I learned that if you get too close to the coast in the wrong place, the sea giants come out and make a meal of you. I chalked that one up in the good to know category. I also learned that in Tanaris, water is a precious commodity, more precious than gold, really. I had to buy some in Gadget Stand. Imagine having to buy water in bottles. Why, next thing you know, I'll be buying bottled air. Yet the reason for bottled water was clear later on. There are no easily attainable sources of water anywhere in Tanaris, and bringing it in by ship or trade route is more expensive than sinking wells. So that's what the goblins and gnomes do, build wells across the desert to farm fresh water. The Gadget Stand Waterworks Company, or GWC, runs the whole operation, without which just about everybody in Tanaris would die of thirst. So most everybody leaves the wells alone, except for some annoying bandits. Wastewater bandits, they're called. You have to watch out for them, or they'll kill you, steal your water, and then if the rumors I heard were true, they distill your body, draining all the liquid out for their own use. Needless to say, wandering the desert alone with these guys around is risky at best. For the better part of my explorations here, I traveled with a GWC patrol that agreed to be my guides. Thanks, boys, and I'm raising a glass to you. People and culture. The two towns of Tanaris, Gadget Stand and Steamweedle Port, were built and are manned mostly by goblins, with some gnomes helping out here and there. Almost all of them work for the Gadget Stand Waterworks Company. Gathering water or making devices to improve their water collecting methods dominates their lives. From what I saw, they had thought of everything. Deeper wells, methods to make it rain, condensation devices, plans to draw the salt out of seawater, even an insanely long pipe running all the way to the closest spring in Thousand Needles. How they're going to pull that one off, I have no idea, but that's the way goblins think. Outside the cities, the need for water is still key, but the means to get it differ. The Wastewander bandits steal it, while the Dunemaul ogres and Sand Fury trolls control the only natural wells in the region. The South Sea pirates get theirs by raiding or simply sailing further up the coast to resupply. If it weren't for them, the GWC could ship in supplies from Steamweedle, but the pirates intercept most shipping these days. So until they're dealt with, things will stay as they are. One interesting thing I learned, although I didn't experience it myself, is that about twice a year, actual rain falls on Tanaris. When this happens, it's not just a drizzle, but an intense downpour that lasts for hours. The few scraggly plants that survive in the desert do so chiefly because of this tiny bit of moisture, but for the residents of Gadgetstan, it's a cause for celebration. The entire town comes to a stop and a holiday breaks out. Everyone collects as much water as they can, and then it's an all-day and all-night party. Part of the celebration's appeal is its unpredictability. If you're ever so fortunate as to be in Gadgetstan on a rainy day, you'll have to tell me about it. Over a pint of ale, naturally. Geography. Like Thousand Needles, Tanaris is a desert, but unlike the barren rocks to the northwest, this desert is made up of sand dunes. From a distance, in fact, it resembles an ocean, except the waves are brown and don't move. When the wind kicks up, though, intense storms result, causing the dunes to change position and shape. If you visit Tanaris one month, you might come back the next and find that everything has moved around. Gadgetstan and Steamweedle Port, as well as the troll city of Zul'Farrak, are located up near the edge of the northern mountains. Because the winds blow out in the plains, these settlements are usually spared the shifting sands treatment. Still, everywhere you go, there's going to be sand. Expect to be picking it out of your clothes all the time, and especially your boots. I learned the trick of putting leather inserts in your boot cuffs, but even that doesn't work all the time. Although there isn't a lot of life in the desert, what you find there is hardy. It has to be in order to survive. I saw scorpions, buzzards, elementals, and hyenas while I traveled, all of which were masters at finding water. If they couldn't get it from a well, they simply caught and killed something for its blood. Nice. The northern edge of Tanaris is blocked by steep hills running all the way to the edge of Ungoro Crater to the west and the ocean to the east. A few scattered hills and mountains litter the landscape, but mostly it's just open dunes everywhere you look. In the southwest, near the Thistle Shrub Valley, there is a sloping path into Ungoro. Thistle Shrub Valley. One of the lowest spots in Tanaris, this area lies on the southwestern edge of the region near the only easy access to Ungoro. Massive cacti and other desert plants dominate the area, a possible indication of water under the surface. Sadly, the location's proximity to the Dunemaul ogres makes it unsuitable for waterworks wells. Furthermore, elementals protect the area. These are creatures of living vines attacking anything that comes near. Only the huge tortoises of the desert are immune to their ire. Sites and settlements. There are only 2 settlements of note in Tanaris. Both are goblin-controlled, although Gadgetstan is well traveled by all sorts of people. In addition to these places, trolls and ogres have smaller settlements. The Caverns of Time. In the south, amid a mountain cluster, lies this mysterious place. Bronze dragons dwell here for reasons unknown. My guides led me close to the caves, but refused to enter for reasons that soon became clear. We saw to our surprise a dwarf coming out of the entrance. He grew closer. He looked a bit like me. He gave a wave and a smile and told me that he entered the cave an hour ago to have a look around. That's when we both realized he was me. The cave sent him, me, back in time. Well, that was an interesting conversation, I can tell you. When it was done, I headed in, and when I came out, I had exactly the same conversation with myself again from the opposite side. The other me then went in, and since I'd already came out, my little party went on our way. Is the other me going to encounter another me? How many me's are there? What does this place do to time? Creepy. Rumors say that Nosdormu, the bronze dragon aspect and lord of time, makes his home here. I didn't see him inside, though. I saw multicolored walls, the occasional image of a piece of unrecognizable landscape, that sort of thing, and a small bronze dragon who ushered me out of the place. I'm not sure if I'll ever go back. I might come out a few hundred years ago or 1,000 years from now. There are the scarabs of Zul'Farrak, sidebar, paraphrased from a letter by the goblin engineer Tranrek in Gadgetstan. Scarabs are big, thick-shelled beetles that scuttle about the desert, digging under the sands at night and emerging during the day to, well, scuttle about, I guess. A long time ago, they were all over the place, but then the other goblins found out what I already knew. Their shells are almost as strong as iron. I was making all sorts of things with them, and the best part was they don't conduct electricity or heat, so I can put them in my machines and not worry about them melting or shocking anybody who touches them. Unfortunately, once those dolts at the Mirage Raceway found out about the scarabs, and they descended like buzzards. Soon the beetles were all gone. Nobody thought to keep a few alive for breeding, not that anybody ever figured out how they breed anyway, so no more dampeners or insulators for me. But wait, a few weeks ago I saw a troll in Gadgetzan with a necklace of scarabs. He wouldn't talk to me, but I know where he came from. Zul'Farrak. There must still be scarabs in that place. The trolls won't sell them to me, though. I think they're scared or something. Primitive. He doesn't continue, unless it goes on the next page. No. Dune Mall Compound. Small village, basically a collection of huts set up around one of the few water holes in southern Tanaris. This place is home to the bronze-skinned Dune Mall ogres. Unlike most ogres, the Dune Malls keep to themselves, probably because traveling across the desert requires more water than they can spare. They don't like visitors, however. Fortunately for me, when I headed to Ngoro Crater, I brought enough water to bribe the ogres into letting me pass. Perhaps I figured it was better to take the free water than fight me for it. I guess not all ogres are stupid, eh? Gadgetzan is a sizable village. This small, walled settlement is made almost entirely of metal, with some stone mixed in here and there. The dominant features are forges and a number of massive machines used to produce and cut metal structures, such as the many wells found throughout the desert. Apparently bandits knocked them down almost as fast as goblins put them up, although why they would destroy a good source of water is beyond me. The skies above Gadgetzan are almost always choked with black smoke from the various machines that always operate, and you might want to bring a set of earplugs if you expect to get any sleep at night. Gaping Chasm and Noxious Lair. These are two more of those weird insect hives of the sort I encountered in Fairless. These, though, are larger. My guides told me a Gadgetzan Waterworks Company explorer was lost in the Gaping Chasm, so we fought off a couple of bugs and entered the small cave system. But other than some yucky slime walls and strange light-emitting insects, we didn't find anything. One of the creatures poisoned one of our party, so we headed back to town for the night. I never did find out what happened to that poor goblin, but the way his skin turned all purple, I have no intention of going near one of those Silithid hives again. Steam Weedleport is a smaller village. This small village is home to a more sedate population of goblins and peaceful trolls who spend most of their time fishing and fighting off South Sea pirates. They have several machines set up to turn salt water into fresh water, but these work only on rare occasions. The residents picked us some of the best seafood meals I've had, even outpacing the elves of Ruthven Village. You haven't lived until you've had a grilled winter squid. See Appendix 12 for the recipe. Zul'Farrak is a village of about the same size. I didn't go into the place of brown adobe walls and mud brick buildings, but I did climb a nearby hill to look down upon it. What I saw was similar to the troll places found half a world away in Stranglethorn Vale, which is amazing in itself. How did trolls separated for thousands of years build what was so obviously a new town using the same construction methods known only to their ancestors thousands of years and miles away? It's said that an ancient weapon, Sul'Thraz the Lasher, is held by the trolls within Zul'Farrak, and another legend says that a mighty demigod sleeps within a sacred pool inside the village. These may just be stories told to fool the unwise visitor, but as I've said before, there's a grain of truth in any legend. The Sand Fury trolls didn't want to talk to me, as the minute I approached the wells outside the city they attacked. I suspect one day they might pose a bigger threat to Gadgetzan than the GWC admits. History. As anyone interested in the mystery of the Makers knows, the Titans long ago created the world, then for whatever reason the Titans disappeared, leaving behind only scattered remnants of their once mighty cities. It's said that Tanaris once housed one such city, a place known as Uldum. While I was in Gadgetzan, I heard talk of this place, but we were unable to locate it on our travels throughout the desert. Perhaps the sands cover it, or maybe Uldum is just another name for the Caverns of Time, as we know that it's a region. Tanaris was also once part of the Gurabashi Empire, a troll nation that existed long before the Sundering and once covered a great part of the world. The Sundering smashed this empire, separating the trolls into tiny fragments of their former greatness. While I don't believe Zul'Farrak to be a ruin of the Gurabashi, it is too recent. It may have been built atop such a ruin. As for the Caverns of Time, little is known about them. From everything I've learned about the place, it has always been there, a permanent landmark, surviving even changes as violent as the Sundering. Perhaps it exists outside of time itself, as a sage once suggested to me. And the adventures in the region. If you venture into the desert, be aware that it's got little or no cover. The bandits see you, and they will see you from a distance, trust me. They'll be waiting over the next sand dune. Oh, and that business about moving only at night? Good luck with that. There are almost never any clouds, so the moonlight makes you stand out like a sore thumb. The worst creatures come out at night, too, like scorpions and Silithid. Plus, it gets downright cold at night. Bring a blanket. All right, so we have wrapped another episode up in the pipe, 5x5. I thank you so much for watching and for listening, and I will see you all next time on Lore of Warcraft.